Hi, I'm State Representative Chris Rabb, and I'm running for Congress in Pennsylvania's 3rd Congressional District, and I'm here to answer questions from Northwest stakeholders. This question is from Mount Airy Business Improvement District, and the question is, what specific federal policies or programs would you support to help small businesses grow, hire locally, and remain viable in commercial corridors like ours? This is near and dear to me because I wrote a book called Invisible Capital, How Unseen Forces Shape Entrepreneurial Opportunity. So I'm very interested in social impact and local entrepreneurship. So I actually use the term local businesses, not small businesses, because not all small businesses are community-centered, and I think that should be our focus. I used to work at the White House Conference on Small Business after I left as a legislative aide in the U.S. Senate many years ago, and I learned that there's not enough resources to allow entrepreneurs to build business, get access to capital, and have the training they need to have viable businesses. So I would have a revolving loan fund for those businesses that are focused with a business model around community wealth building. So those are all the businesses that actually help communities grow and sustain themselves instead of predatory practices or things that are just about profit maximization for private individuals. So this is what we need in terms of our corridors. We need to make sure we have the right local businesses that are not just small, but are reinvesting in those communities, including a living wage for all. I am the author of the boldest living wage for all bill in the entire country, which would start at $15 an hour and go up to an actual living wage for Philadelphians. And the reason that's good for local businesses is the more people have money in their pockets, the more they spend locally. We should also provide subsidies in terms of grants and other means to incentivize local businesses who are committed to community wealth building. And that should be a priority, not bailing out Wall Street corporations and so forth, but those folks who are truly invested in local communities and care about their employers, the environment, and their consumers and other stakeholders. And that's something I will continue to work on in Congress. This next question is from the Chestnut Hill Conservancy. How would you support federal funding and policy that help communities preserve historic buildings, protect open space and watershed resources, and expand access to local history? Well, I'm proud to say that I helped get state funding for the Chestnut Hill Conservancy and have been involved as a partner in the work that they do in the district and beyond. I'm particularly interested in their new mission statement to go beyond Chestnut Hill to talk about all issues along the watershed. And I'm a former board member of the Friends of the Wissahickon, who I also helped get state money for. And these are important issues. When we talk about green spaces, when we talk about protecting historic spaces, this is Philadelphia. We need to make sure that we have all the resources to protect and preserve these historic sites. And so I've been a strong advocate for it on the state level. I will continue to do that on the federal level. And the money is there. How do we know it? How do we know the money is there? Because we're sending it overseas for wars we shouldn't be in. We have everything we need to have all of these things and understand that this is part of what I said earlier about what community wealth is. It's our shared history. It's our green spaces. It's all of the built environment and the natural environment that we have to preserve, protect, and uplift, because that allows to strengthen our communities in all the most meaningful ways. This next question is from Face to Face Germantown. What laws do you think Congress can pass in the current political environment to increase housing supply for low-income renters? Well, in this current political environment, I don't think we can pass anything, which is why we need to change this current environment to make sure we have more progressive public servants and fewer centrist politicians representing us, to make sure that the boldest housing policies are what we put forth and not just things that help private real estate developers, private equity, and so forth. Because those are the folks who have the biggest influence on the Democrats we send to Congress, which is why I don't take corporate PAC money and I'm funded by the people. But going back to housing policy, we need to have social housing. We need to make sure that we fund the Whole Homes Repair Plan, which was sponsored by Senator Nikhil Saval, who's endorsed me and who's trying to take this to a national level. And I'll be one of the advocates to do that. But we have to have support for the Place to Prosper Act, which is introduced by Representative AOC, who also endorsed me, to make sure that folks can stay in their homes, get the support they need, but also build more housing, which includes social housing. Housing should be a guaranteed human right. We have the money for it. We don't have the political will. But if we elect the right people and take back the House in 2027, we will have the substantive policies that allow us to build a lot more housing that is deeply affordable, green, and accessible. And those are the things that have to be a priority, because we shouldn't have to worry about people not being able to buy homes and to have rents that are way too high. This is born out of policy. We can do this if we have the political will to make it happen. This next question is from Friends of the Wissahickon. As flooding, extreme heat, and biodiversity loss intensify across Pennsylvania, what role should urban forests and watershed parks play in the federal climate strategy, and what concrete steps would you take to increase federal investment in places like the Wissahickon Valley? Well, this is close to my heart because obviously part of the Wissahickon is in my current legislative district, and much of it is in the congressional district for which I seek to represent going forward. And I'm a former board member of the Friends of Wissahickon, and I said, you can either keep me on as a private citizen, or you can allow me to take my leave from the board so I can help you get grant money from the state. So I left the board, and since then, I was able to bring home several $100,000 for Friends of the Wissahickon, because it's organizations like this that promote all of these policies and programs that help us embrace nature and incorporate that into our urbanity and our fabric of society in the most meaningful ways. This is something that we can do on the federal level. There are funds that are available, but the thing is, in this current extremist administration that is anti-environment, anti-urban, anti-anything that is truly equitable, these programs are being stripped of the funding they need. All of that can be restored. We got to make sure first we get Trump out of office, but in the interim, we can also work across the aisle to make sure that we work with conservatives who believe in conservation and who do share some of these values. And I know that because I serve on the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators and work with some Republicans who share our values around green space, around protecting our natural environment. And I believe that we can find common cause with folks in order to restore and, more importantly, broaden the funding for all of these types of programs and initiatives that are so necessary, particularly in the city of Philadelphia, where we benefit from a rich ecosystem where people come from all over to take advantage of this gem that is the Wissahickon, that I'm so deeply proud of and will continue to support in whatever capacity I can. This final question is from West Mount Airy Neighbors. Can you recall a moment from your career where you wish you did things differently? What did you learn from that experience? I love this question. In 2016, the year before I took office, the state legalized medical cannabis. And in 2017, there was discussion of implementing and figuring out how to license medical cannabis dispensaries and where they should be sited across the Commonwealth. And here in Philadelphia and in my current legislative district, there was discussion about whether they should be in our communities. And because I was brand new to office, I didn't think about leading on this and having town halls and having interactive discussions with folks. Instead, I was more reactive because I didn't have the benefit of being part of the process of enacting this bill into law. And so I was more on in reactive mode. And as a result, the narrative got away and it became very combative, and people were saying, oh, these are businesses that we shouldn't have in our community because it's bringing in a bad element and so forth and so on. And instead, I wish I had engaged and initiated instead of reacting to other electeds and other folks without inserting myself as someone who agreed with bringing in medical cannabis as a legal alternative to pharmaceutical products, et cetera. And as someone who became a medical cannabis patient, it was personal. But the thing I learned most was, if you lead with authenticity and vulnerability, and you show people instead of just telling them, they can come to better informed decisions. And so one of the best things that came out of it was I actually personally picked up people who were against dispensaries, who had never visited a dispensary, and I got them to see what they could look like and how they could actually benefit our community. And that changed hearts and minds, and I've used that approach ever since. I'm Chris Rabb, and I'm running for Congress because I believe in transformative change. I believe that we are the ones we've been waiting for. Only we can save us, and that we need more public servants in public office and fewer politicians tethered to moneyed interests. I do not accept corporate PAC money. I've never accepted corporate PAC money. I respond to the people. I have more donors than all of my opponents combined. I have small donors than all of my opponents combined. I have more Philly donors than all of my opponents combined. And I'm running not because I seek status or power, but I want to give a voice to those people who feel silenced, who feel ignored, marginalized, young people, progressives, Black women, other folks from communities of struggle who do not see themselves in the traditional candidacies that emerge in election seasons. I'm running because I believe that we have the potential to do amazing things together. We do not need saviors. We need community. We need movement. And in this movement moment, we can do wonderful things for the city of Philadelphia, for our Commonwealth, and for our nation as a whole, as we are on the eve of the 250th anniversary of this nation in a city that birthed this imperfect union. We have to embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly and learn from it and move forward towards shared prosperity and collective liberation. That's why I'm running. I care very deeply about service. It is its own reward, and it is something that I was born into. I've inherited the extraordinary legacy of Black abolitionists and civil rights activists and freedom fighters that I have traced as a family historian and genealogist for over 30 years. These values are steeped into my cultural DNA. It's why I seek to serve, and I'm so thankful that I have served the 200th Legislative District for the past 5 terms. I'm not running for office again. I am only interested in serving now as your next member of Congress, and I thank you for your consideration. I want to thank all the Northwest organizations who were participants in this and provided these great questions. I'm so glad I had an opportunity to respond to them. And I want to remind people that the election is on May 19th. So please make sure you come out and vote, or come out and drop off your mail-in ballots at a safe and secure drop box near you. And please make sure you remember that it's your voice when you show up on Election Day.